put it this way, they will become sophisticated, who work in the cocoa industry, the timber, mining, everything. So they drew up this imaginary boundary, and it was craftily done that Ashanti will not be part of the local parliament. And if they will not be part, it means the North too automatically will not be part. So no education for Northerners. Every Northerner who was brought from the North to the South knew what he was going to do, like to be a houseboy, to be a gardener, something like that. This was the country Nkrumah left in 1935 and went to another country, which was also a colony of some other country and had fought to become independent. So if Nkrumah had
Which country was that?
The United States of America. You see, and it was accidental, and I would say a blessing, because the colonial, the colonialists, I wouldn't want to say colonial masters, which that's no good, always selected the brightest and the best of the sons of Africa and gave them education to come and help them to perpetuate their rule. Nkrumah accidentally found himself in America.
It's actually still happening though, but he can go.
Yeah, so he going to a country that also fought for its independence. That's one. Made him to learn that that country needed to fight for its independence, even though there was no difference between the language and the pigmentation of the British and the Americans. Still, he did that. Then the next one was that when that country, made up of more than 50 states, had their freedom from the British, they did not split into those 50 plus states, but decided to stick together and had made them a superpower. Then the next one was that Africa was had the same number of states as the US. And we did not decide to split ourselves, but it was the white man who decided to put artificial boundaries here. And then, above all else, because he found himself in a predominantly black university, Lincoln, he had the opportunity of learning from black people and hating white people who didn't like Africans, and that's what I mean. So when Nkrumah came here, in the first place, if he had been to Britain, you know, UK has the same size as Ghana. So if he had been to Britain and had returned to Ghana, he wouldn't have seen anything wrong with our size. But because he went to a country which was as big as a continent, and when he returned to this, they said, no, this is just too small for us. And when they made him UGCC General Secretary, he found that they had only 2 organized branches out of 13 on record. Within 2 months, because he came from a continent, he was a man of continental dimension, he had organized 300 branches. So what made Nkrumah was the fact that the country he left was a country of inequalities. White people on top, and even among blacks, white people had created the impression that some are better than others. And Nkrumah felt he had a duty to bring them together. And I've always been saying on every platform that when the Northerners, as my brother said, supported him, bought into his idea, he dedicated the independence of Ghana to them. He wore the Northern smock and immediately became an international wear for all black people. So this is the background of slavery, the background of division, the background of inequality, and the background of he going to see what unity can do for us in terms of America, what size can do for us in terms of America, what education can do for us in terms of America. That's why he introduced all these things.
Bernard, I mean, with his plans, having the United States of Africa, getting that kind of freedom for the continent itself and for its people, economic emancipation was very key. Earlier in my introduction, I talked about you saying that a black man is capable of running his own affairs and all that. With his dream and his vision for Africa and Ghana, was he successful?
Yes, he was successful. But just to add, you know the smoke that Kwame Nkrumah wore on Independence Day, or in declaring independence. Kwame Nkrumah was arrested and put under house arrest in Laura. The house is still there in Laura. And whilst he was put within that house, he was not allowed to go out because the colonialists feared that any time he went out, he was making the African more politically conscious. So they detained him there. In that detention, when eventually they granted him his freedom to go.
That was after the 1948 riots.
Yes. When they granted him his right to move, he was to go, and I'm told a bird droppings fell on his, you know, he used to like white. So the droppings of the bed fell on him. And then the house owner said, no, we can't allow you to go. I mean, you are a prominent figure. We can't allow you to go. So take off that, and then we'll give you a smock.
Yeah.
And so they gave him that smock, and Kwame Nkrumah decided to wear it on top. If you watch the video well, you will see that he wore that smock on top. And so when he was to declare independence, he recognized what the old man in that house told him, that you are going to be a great man. Use this and don't use what you have. And that is how come he used the northern smock to declare independence. That smock was obtained from Laura. Unfortunately, the people of Laura, don't vote for the Convention People's Party of the Nkrumah's political party.
Don't go there. You answer his question for him. Just answer
I will answer. The lawyer, I will answer. But you were asking whether
he was successful in all.
He was successful. He was successful, one, because I am here. But for the fact that he extended education to the north, I would not have been here.
Okay.
Probably others would not have followed his example to establish schools to get to Sankana, where I attended my education. So that is a success for Kwame Nkrumah. He was successful because he initiated and brought us presidency away from prime ministerialship. He was successful, and he is successful because today we have a president called Akufo-Addo. And to obtain presidency, remember that when he was prime minister, he was still subservient, and the laws of Ghana, lawyer probably will confirm this, still had to receive the royal assent. Laws that were passed until 1960, you still needed the assent of the Queen before they can be implemented in Ghana. So in 1960, Kwame Nkrumah said, no, enough of this. We will become totally independent. And then we got the Republic. So the Republic was the final push for our independence, and that is how come he transited from prime minister to become president. Today, if we have a president called Akufo-Addo, that means that Nkrumah was successful. Today, if we can boast of even electricity company of Ghana, it means that Kwame Nkrumah was successful. Right? Today, if we can sit down and think about Tema and the Tema ports, it means Kwame Nkrumah was successful. Today, if we can sit down and we remember the state farms that produced a lot, for which reason we established the silos, so we can store in the bumper season and supply in the lean season in order to ensure price stability. It means Nkrumah was successful. Okay. Today, if the entire Africa is still working towards having a continental currency, is working towards a continental high command, is working towards a continental central bank, is still working towards a united Africa, Nkrumah was successful. As to how far we have navigated away from what Nkrumah put up, what I call the foundation, and we're supposed to build on it. And I, on this day, every morning by 5:30, I am at the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park. Every year, 21st September, I go there to make my libation and to pray.
You've done that for today?
I did.
Okay.
And that is how come I saw that the police were being unreasonable on the street. But I'll come to the police later. But when I got there, and every year when I go there, this is my prayer, that Kwame Nkrumah, you were a gift unto not only Africa, but unto the world, to bring about social equanimity amongst everybody. I have been provided opportunity because of your policies. And that dream of a tree has been truncated. And anytime you go under the mausoleum, you see the tree, don't you? Check the mausoleum. You see that it's growing. You see the roots are extending, and the trunk, and it's being cut off. I said that this tree that has been truncated needs to be grafted. And that as a worthy ancestor, wherever knowledge and power will come from, we believe in our ancestors. Kwame Nkrumah is a foremost ancestor. Let us be able to graft the Kwame Nkrumah so that it will blossom, bear the fruits, so that African people will not. Let me tell you this. In 1963, UNESCO did their research, and they put at that time Ghana's population growth rate was 4.7. Take note of the population growth. And they said in their research that by 1970, Ghana would become a net importer of labor. Because we were expanding industries, we were providing electricity. Kwame Nkrumah, when he was to do Akosombo Dam, which was 600 megawatts at the time, Ghana's total energy demand was 50 megawatts. But he read into the future and constructed a 600 megawatts because he knew that population expansion will come. He did not stop there. He was developing atomic energy so that we can use nuclear power to do electricity. He brought in the Russian or Soviet reactor. After his overthrow, Buzia gave the Soviet reactor to the United States of America, and they brought us a toy one which is lying down there. Do you understand? Yeah. He was doing this because he could use population growth rate at the time. Today, Ghana's population is less than 1%. But 4.7, they could project that by 1970, Ghana will become a net importer of labor. What that meant is that every Ghanaian that wanted a job to do would have had a paid job. But there would still have been surplus jobs that Ghana probably would have to go outside of the continent of Africa and bring Chinese to come and work, bring Americans to come and work, bring, Russians to come and work, because we would have created an opportunity where job and income for the people who wanted to work will not be a problem. Today,
was he successful? Fine, I mean, I get the success bit of what you talked about and what he has done and what he did. But was he successful to get the United Africa?
If we have the Organization of Africa Unity, it was a compromise position. Because Kwame Nkrumah wanted a united Africa.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they got the likes of Nyerere, who are called the gradualists, who opposed it and said that we should take our time. And of course, don't forget that at the 40th anniversary of Ghana's independence, at the Accra International Conference Center, 1997, Julius Nyerere came, and after that speech, he went and survived no more.
Yeah.
In that speech, he apologized to Kwame Nkrumah and said, and I quote, that if sons and daughters of Africa want to have a place under the sun, they should unite. They don't call him Nkrumah, they call him Kwame. And that Kwame was right. And he, Julius Nyerere, and those who oppose the United States of America, Africa that Kwame Nkrumah proposed at the time, they were wrong.
Okay.
So to the extent that one of the foremost Pan-Africanists would come and tell us, and that day I was there, privileged person like me. I was in Sankana, something brought me to Accra, and they said Nyerere was coming to speak. That was the contemporary of Kwame Nkrumah. I went to the Accra International Conference Center, and there he spoke. You people have the tape. And he apologized that Kwame was right, that he did not succeed in bringing the United States of Africa, but he birthed the idea, and that idea is as potent today probably than it was yesterday. Should tell you that Kwame Nkrumah is nothing but a huge success.
Okay, all right. Lawyer, same question, whether he was successful in his quest, developmental quest for the country and for Africa. We'll come to the economic conversation as we go on, though.
Yeah, but I don't think he could be wholly successful.
Okay.
All because he was a pioneer. And as a pioneer, definitely his contemporaries would not understand him. And then don't forget that the Western powers, from whom Nkrumah was trying to wrestle power, were still those depending on Africa's raw materials. So a united Africa would have meant throwing them away and then denying them what they felt they deserved. So they would work against him. Secondly, Kwame Nkrumah, during his time, was working between two worlds, the Eastern world then headed by the Soviet Union, and then the Western world. And Nkrumah himself feeling that if you get your independence from the West and you discover they never set up one industry for you, and you think that when you go to the East, which never colonized you, never enslaved you, but was ready to give you factories and all the things that you need, like what he was talking about, the nuclear weapons in Kolebu area, you know, Russia freely giving to you, definitely his attention will go there more. And then the Western world will be peeved, because you say that these are people whom we have moved with for the past 300 years, and now they are drifting away, either to become like us or to join Russia to make them more potent. So at the international level, things will work against Nkrumah. And then, as I said, locally, his contemporaries did not understand his dream. In fact, a Russian professor in 1962 told Kwame Nkrumah that it would take 80 years before his people would understand who he was. So definitely such a person would not live long. But like Jesus I mentioned, like Paul, like Muhammad, you know, all the leaders, Gandhi, everybody, once you are a pioneer, you only lay the foundation, and then people who later come to understand you would build upon the foundation. So as a prophet, as you said, that he was a prophet. Indeed, Nkrumah described himself as the first prophet of Pan-Africanism.
It was Bernard who said he was a prophet.
Well, Bernard, okay. Yes. He described himself as the first prophet of Pan-Africanism. And he always made use of Psalm 68, verse 31, where it is stated, envoys shall soon come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall raise her arms unto the Lord. And Nkrumah added, Africa must unite. That the day you see envoys coming out of Egypt, Egypt is on African soil, and Ethiopia raising her arms unto the Lord, Ethiopia is on African soil, then the entire continent of Africa would unite. So Nkrumah used that as a premise to declare himself a messiah of Pan-Africanism. To that he was successful, because he became the pivot point upon whom, around whom the entire freedom force in Africa relied on. And I quite remember when the year 2000, he beat Mandela to the second position. And Mandela was interviewed that the man who came first is long dead. You are alive, somebody has beaten you. You know the answer he gave. He said, but do you know the one I voted for? It was Nkrumah. When I was thinking about bringing down, dismantling apartheid, Kwame Nkrumah was thinking about the unification of the entire continent of Africa. So that the dream I had and the dream I still have can never be compared to that of Nkrumah. And that shows how transparent, how honest Mandela was. So to the extent that he came to light, the light, you know, to become a light for the part of everybody, I think Nkrumah was very successful. And to the extent that he was born at a time when the world was split between West and East, and anybody who declared support for one would not last. Definitely, he wouldn't be successful. Because if Bernard Mona says that in 1963, UNESCO predicted that by the 70s we will be importing external labor, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen because he could not live to achieve his aim. It was truncated somewhere along the line. So we should admit that to that extent, he was not successful. And then also, to end it there, you see, some people would think that he did not have respect for the opposition. He created one party state.
We'll come to that.
We'll talk about
we'll come to it. We're still having that kind of storyline.
Very good.
Let's move to the whole economic conversation. And Bernard, I'll start with you on this. Whilst Lizzie, you get the 5-year economic 7 years actually economic development plan for Kwame Nkrumah. Just get it ready for me, and let's go to page 28. But before we get that on the screen, Bernard, if you read that particular document, the 7-year development plan, Nkrumah tried as much as possible and focus more of this socialism and the socialized society creating and seeing that that's how that development is going to come from. If we look at today, comparing that two economic ideas, socialism and the capitalist aspect, would you say that socialism is still relevant as we speak compared to how Nkrumah pushed it so well within that economic plan?
You have to situate the position of Kwame Nkrumah in the socialist agenda, what we call the scientific socialism, to how America developed.
Okay.
to how the United Kingdom developed, to how India is developing, to how Russia has developed, to how China has developed, and tell me which of these countries did not use socialism to develop. Tell me which of these places I've mentioned did not use socialism to develop.
The argument is that they did, but along the line...
Don't worry, I'll get it for you.
All right. Okay.
You have to read Professor Ha-Yun Chung, the Chinese professor who wrote his book, Kicking Away the Ladder. And that the ladder that the Western world, the Asian world, in fact, he even excluded the Asian world, that the Western world used to climb to the top. When they reach the top, other people who want to use the same ladder to get to the top, they are then sitting down and pushing away the ladder so they cannot get to the top. So when they come and tell you, do you know that the major system of transportation in Germany, they call it the BVG, that BVG, as we will call it in Ghana. Do you know that it's state-owned? And now they are allowing management to buy in. So from the train tram system, right, to the public bus system, it is owned and regulated by the state. And Germany, as a student, when I went there, your student ID card was also your transportation card. So you could use any of the trams, the trains, the buses, anywhere you wanted to go. Right? Why? Because they created a system where those who don't have jobs can also find a way to survive. So socialism is the answer. How many of us don't come from socialist homes? How many of us?
We all do.
How many of us don't come from socialist or commune? Communism has been our order. We live with it. We eat together. We move to funerals together. We support each other. And that is what socialism is all about. It's not about one person being having and the others don't have and impoverished. And so Kwame Nkrumah brought about this idea that in that socialist state, the state must be the major provider of the welfare needs of our people. And that is how come that Kwame Nkrumah did not extinguish the private sector. Private sector businesses were running. But he made sure that the state also had businesses. Ghana Oil, GOIL. It's there. Other companies were running.
Tazakoti was there.
You understand? We had state hotels. But private hotels were functioning. Today, persons that are privileged to get appointment as ministers are going around buying La Palm Royal Beach, Busia Beach, Elmina Beach. They want to use the state power instead of creating more assets for the state. They are using that authority to steal. Do you lobby? Do you understand? This is the state that we find ourselves. So Kwame Nkrumah created. Look, I sit down and I hear people say that the private sector is in the engine of growth.
Yes.
Right?
That's what we've been told.
The private sector didn't build for us airports. But we built our own airports. And we had our Ghana Airways. We thought that we could not manage Ghana Airways. And so we decided to sell Ghana Airways, right? When we sold Ghana Airways, we said we were going to bring Ghana International. People that sold the Ghana Airways were fighting over share ownership and what percentage of share. Ghana Airways and Ghana International never survived. Yet the state has to provide airports for whose planes to come and land. Common sense or zero sense? We are building the airports for other people's planes to come and land. And you don't have a plane. Yours, the best of yours, the relics of yours, is opposite Manera Mall and it's a chop bar. That is what we have done. We had the Black Star Line, the shipping company that President Liman came and added 6 new ships to. We sold the Black Star Line. We sold the dry dock. We sold the shipping yard. When we had to now go and construct the FPSO, we took it to Malaysia to go and rent their dry dock and their shipyard to put it in there so that it can be constructed. Common sense or 0 sense. We had GNTC, right? It was a chain shop.
Of shops, yeah.
We had one. If you still go to Sankana, one was there. So that if you were eating mackerel in Accra, you could eat mackerel also in the villages. It limited rural-urban drift. You had? Today, we have closed and sold down our GNTC, and we are now Chinanizing our malls. So we have China Mall. We have European and South African malls. What is it that is in the China Mall that the GNTC used not to have? We collapsed ours. And we are excited. The Asianization of our continent, even our food, isn't that sickening? Right? So we are selling our state hotels in the hope that the private sector will take over. When you sold GNTC, did we sustain GNTC? We sold the assets. When you sold the Black Star Line, did you see that any private person who came and said that, look, we are going to do this? You sold Ghana Airways. We don't have any airline. Right? The worst of all is that we sold Ghana Telecom. We sold Ghana Telecom. At the time, communication became more than gold. And so now our communications are being controlled by private sector from any source, and they can manipulate and control what we say.
What you say, yeah.
And we sit down in this country so that the food that the people of Ghana eat will be produced. Many of the farms that we have today are for business and for money, the commercial farms. Yeah. So I am going into a field where I can produce and sell and make my money and not to feed the nation. You get the drift? Kwame Nkrumah thought that as a nation, I need to ensure that my people get food to eat because food is a security issue. That is why they say a hungry man is an angry man. And when you are angry, you are equal to a mad person. And that can bring down democracy. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to sustain us on that path.
Okay.
We sold all those things. We are sitting here, and today, you come and tell us that you are doing what? Planting for food for jobs. And then they ask you, where are the state farms? You have no farm. So who is doing the planting for food and for jobs for you? I decide to go and do my private farm. You come and give me money. So I do my private farm. I want to go and do cash crop, and then I am exporting. What has that got to do with supplying food for our nation?
So, I mean, you believe that socialism has not failed?
Socialism is growing and will become stronger.
Okay.
Right? Those who claim that they are not socialists, when they are hit by reality, they'll come and tell you that we brought social interventions.
All right. Oh, yeah. Same argument within the economic front now. His basis all was from that socialist front. And he believed, he as Nkrumah believed that that's the best way to get that development for Ghana and for that matter, Africa too. Indeed, if you read that 7 years development plan, it was very strong in that particular document. As we speak today, is it still relevant?
It's very relevant. You see, we stayed with the West, 300 years of slavery, you know, and in the case of Ghana, at the time of independence, we didn't have a single industry here, no factory, nothing, because the colonial policy was just taking the raw material straight from the source to be developed into manufactured goods in Europe and America. So once you become free, what do? You don't tell that person from the West to shift his policy and help you to build industries here. If you wanted to do that, you would have done it within the 300 years period that he was with you before you had your independence. And then also, don't forget that socialism, as Karl Marx theorized it, is not different, quite different from the African system of communalism. You know, as my friend was saying, in actual fact, ours is communalism. We live in a communal system of life. And then we say that I am because you are. So when you relate that one to communism, you see that the difference is not much. Second, in Marxism or socialism, we are told that we have the bourgeoisie at the top, and then below them the masses, the proletariat, and then ultimately the proletariat will take up power against the bourgeoisie. Then there will be dictatorship of the proletariat. From there, we catapult ourselves to the level of communism. It was not different from what we had here, because down here in Ghana, we had the people, the colony. Then on top are, let me now use what I don't want to say, the colonial masters. They are the capitalists, they are the bourgeoisie. And there is nobody in this world who will give you your freedom if you don't initiate it yourself. So you have to fight them, just as Russia fought the Tsar and then established communism. And then from that moment, just 1917, they shoot up to become a world power. So what happened in the East that helped them to become a power? What happened in the West that helped them to become a power? I don't think it was different to the foundation we had here. But Mona was using Germany as an example. I will use Britain because I was in the UK. To this day, you see that in Britain, education, health, and transport strictly controlled by the state. And if this is not socialism, what again? If this is not socialism. So Nkrumah felt...
Well, the argument is that, well, you can't actually develop with pure socialism, of course. There's a blend.
No, it's socialism. That's why
they didn't stop the private sector.
Nkrumah did not stop anybody. And don't also forget, in the case of Ghana, we didn't have any economy at all. And after independence, if Nkrumah had invited the private sector to set up some economy, there would have been two major problems. The first one is that the aim, the focus of the private person may not necessarily be what the people would need. And then the second is that they don't have the capital, the wherewithal to set up the industry in the first place. So it was the state that would have to take the initiative in building industries. Then others would come in. If the man has set up a sugar factory at Esichari or Commander, has the state stopped you from planting sugarcane so that you will sell it to the factory? If Kwame Nkrumah has set up the Firestone factory at Bangsa, has the state stopped you from planting rubber so that you can sell your latex to the company? So I believe that Nkrumah only did the initiation and then all others to jump on it. So I wouldn't say he failed. Without it, would have gone nowhere. And secondly, those who felt that his whole system was too centralized and that the private sector should be the engine of growth, at least using Flight Lieutenant Rawlings' period, when the IMF told us that everything should be decentralized or privatized. When we went into that system, do you know what happened? Massive unemployment. Then the cedi dropping in value. And then thirdly, all the state enterprises collapsing completely. And where are we today? The answer is that the person who was the architect of it, Dr. Kwesi Boche, wrote it down that when I have led Ghana to fail, I deceived Rawlings with the superior knowledge. He was a PhD holder, law professor, economist, everything. And then he bought everything that IMF proposed. And I have led the whole country astray after almost 19 years. So when I die, please don't even mention it anywhere. Give me just a private burial. Whereas in the case of Ghana, in the case of Nkrumah, when he died and Sekou wanted to bury him privately in Guinea, what happened? The whole world stood up and said, please, this man is a hero. Send him to where he comes from. So I beg you, Nkrumah failed. If you say that Nkrumah never failed in anything, then you are saying that he was not a human being. And if he was not human, he couldn't have lived with us. He had so many frailties as a human being, so many failures. And you will pardon him because he was just a pioneer leader. But when it comes to his achievement, the fact that he loved his country more than any leader that came after him, even within Ghana and beyond, then you will pardon him and you will praise him.
All right, let me have the 7-year economic development plan. We'll go to page 28. That's the second point there that talks about the economic problems now facing Ghana. And he has about 5 pointers in there. And let me just read a paragraph before those pointers. So if you can have that on the screen. In recent years, the economic capacity of Ghana has become increasingly unable to cope with the demands made upon it by both the public and the government. There has been a marked improvement in the standards of living and some sectors in productivity, but they both remain low by comparison with achievements of the more advanced countries. The most important areas where lack of sufficient economic progress has led to serious difficulties has been the following. Now, I'm touching on these because it still reflects the challenges we're going through as we speak today. Number one, the growing amounts and the varieties of goods demanded by the people as their standard of living has risen, have not even been supplied by the economy of Ghana, and has also remained almost entirely dependent upon foreign sources of supply for manufactured goods. Even though Ghana is a predominantly agricultural country, she has also had to import food in ever increasing quantities and at a great cost in foreign exchange, and that's still happening. Taxable capacities, which depend upon the level of economic activities, has fallen behind the requirement of government for the revenues with which to support the increased scale of public service. It goes on to talk about the economy has been unable to provide enough job opportunities for an adequate proportion of the new hands which have been available for work. And the final point, which touched on the economic challenges that Ghana was actually facing there, 1963, 1964, says that the external balance of the economy upon which depends the international strength of Ghana pound has been too narrowly based on the fortunes of a single crop, which is cocoa. Recently, we had this cocoa argument going on in there. For the last 7 years, the Ghana economy has not been earning enough foreign exchange to pay for its current purchase of goods and services from abroad. If you read these challenges that Nkrumah outlined in 1963 to 64, that was part of the economic 7-year economic development plan for this wonderful country of ours. Subsequently, he outlined what can be done to move away from this whole challenges. Oh yeah, I'm starting still within the economic conversation, which is very key for us as a country.
We're talking about
these things are still...
Yeah, well, you see, we are talking about the mid-60s, that UNESCO was praising the country. Yeah. And Nkrumah did not see it as anything worthy, but he rather saw problems. Yeah. So when a leader is like that, then he's a great leader. Yeah. You know, he doesn't see any achievement. He thinks that we haven't achieved anything. And we have to keep working. We have to keep working. So that made him a great leader. Secondly, if there were real problems in the 60s, he tried to put down the solution.
Well, of course. I mean, if you read the documents, yes. I mean, every solution. He tackled everything and there was a solution.
The Panacea was a 7-year development plan. Yeah. So it means that this man was a leader. This is a person who would not sleep, who would not rest, and would always try to decipher the problems and then bring in the solution.
Till now, it's the same problem.
It's the same problem because
the same issues
who came after him, they did not follow the blueprint that he laid down, the benchmark. It is said there. Somebody asked me whether Ghana could go back to the days of Nkrumah. I said all the factors that she sent us there are still existing, luckily and thankfully to God. The first one is the human capital. Yeah. The second one is that we have the resources. So what again? And then once you have the human capital and you have the resources, what can you not achieve as a nation? And then it becomes imperative even more. Why? Because we have tried so many economic programs after Nkrumah's overthrow. And you've seen that his, however bad they might be, were the best. And so we have to go back. Because if somebody tells you that we need factories, not just saying one factory for every district, when even in China, you don't find a factory in every district because it is not every district that deserves a factory. You know, how do you say that GTV needs a garden here or a farm here I'm just making an analogy. When you know that there is no land here, but the land is at maybe Botiano, then you should go there. So if you say that one district, one factory, philosophically, the very foundation is a failure, because it's not everywhere we would need a factory. Some places will rather consume where other factories in other regions have brought in. So why do you continue to deceive yourself? And then the factories in Nkrumah had, do you know that the Kede Match factory, during at the peak of its glory, was the second or third leading supplier of matches to the whole world? The Kede Match factory in Ghana. In Ghana, it was the second or third in the whole wide world. So why do you say that it was a failure? And why don't you go back when we still have the forest there and we can plant? And Ghana is still one of the two leading producers and exporters of cocoa. So why don't you reset up, reinvigorate your jute factory, rather than using a contractor who will sign an agreement with somebody in Bangladesh and then supply to the country at the cost that he wants? You know, the Black Star Line Mona talks about, you still export goods in the raw form. So why don't you go back and import vehicles?
I should actually add that the things you are outlining were part of the solutions to the problems that I just talked about.
The problems are there and the solutions are there, but we are not prepared to apply them. And luckily, you know, on one TV station this morning, they asked me whether there is any example to show that Ghana would succeed when we go back. I said there was a very clear example. There was one man called General Ichampo, my mentor, you know, who decided to follow whatever Nkrumah did. But instead of the state going deep into what Nkrumah did, because the fact is many of them were still there. And as Mona said, even Dr. Liman came to add, and it was Liman's government, the first of its kind in Ghana, that read the budget, the first budget, reduced the prices of fuel products. Yes, Liman's government did that. Then the finance minister was Professor George Bene. You understand? Yeah. So I think that somebody came in General Ichampo who decided that I would rather give big loans to entrepreneurs who had already employed Ghanaians. And that was also many, this Kwawu and then Ashanti businessmen sprang up. And until the revolution that destroyed most of their businesses, Ghana was doing very well. Ichampo was able to tell the whole world, Yentri, I will not pay any loan that we owe you. And introduced an agricultural revolutionary policy called Operation Feed Yourself. And Ghana, for the first time in Islam, started exporting food to other parts of the world. So the 6 years of Ichampo's era, not relying on IMF, following Nkrumah's policies, Ghana became a haven again. So please, it's not difficult. If we are celebrating Kwame Nkrumah's birthday today, it's not difficult for us to go back. After all, our elders tell us that, so we will final sign of fire. It's very simple. It's very simple. We have to go back. You know, the Ashantis never named any chief after Osei Tutu the first. All because their policy was that when you are a king and you die at the battlefront, then we don't have to name another chief after you. After so many years, they realized that that man remained their greatest leader and he built the empire. So we should go back to that name. And today we have Osei Tutu the second. So please, it's not late for Ghana to say that we are sorry to ourselves. Let us go back. And that is Sankofa.
And again, before I come to Bernard Mona, Nkrumah said that these problems exist in spite of the country's generous endowment in natural resources, because in the past, those resources were not exploited to yield maximum economic benefit, including employment, foreign exchange, and government revenue. It's still happening today as we speak. Bernard, with these issues raised, which is still happening today, of course, Nkrumah had his own solutions. Nkrumah had his solutions. And I mean, lawyer has outlined a lot of the solutions to some of these challenges. But I mean, as we speak, those solutions cannot be found.
Nkrumah wrote down the problems.
Yes.
As he wrote down the solutions.
Yes. And he started implementing the solutions.
And he did an implementation.
Yeah.
It was in 1966 that the Akosombo Dam was commissioned in January. At the time Nkrumah built the Akosombo Dam, Ghana's total energy requirement was just 50 megawatts.
Megawatts, yes.
And Nkrumah built a 600 megawatts. That led to Prime Minister Buzia, then opposition member to describe Kwame Nkrumah's effort as engaging in prestigious edifices, and that Ghana could just buy generators, big generators, to supply the energy requirements. Why was Kwame Nkrumah spending money to put up Akosombo Dam? Busia was a midget-minded person. Kwame Nkrumah was a wide-minded person who thought several years ahead of him. Kwame Nkrumah, in realizing the statement you just made, that we are endowed with lots of natural wealth. Major one has been gold. He's decided not only to extract gold, but to start to put gold refinery in Takwa and many other places. We left the gold refinery to rot. Why? Because it was what the Western world wanted. That's why they overthrew us, overthrew Kwame Nkrumah. So in overthrowing Kwame Nkrumah, if they allowed gold to be refined in Ghana, we'll be adding value to our gold. We'll be earning more money. We'll be using the residue from the refinery to do other things. And that will also create its own downward scale of employment. And they did not want that to happen. So you carry your gold there. And we were only told that gold was for ornamental purposes, right? But the value of gold is beyond ornamental purposes. You use it actually in the construction of aeroplanes. You use it in many engineering feats. Unfortunately, we were told that, look, it's for ornament. So people saw gold as just carrying a gold chain, gold bangles. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to do something bigger. When Kwame Nkrumah is saying that, look, we are a nation full of agricultural endowment, and yet we have to import food. We should cease from importing food. That is how come he established the state farms. In fact, if you read his agri development plan, you understand. He established the crop research institute, animal research institute. He did the seed growth. So the Pokwasi area, which Kwame Nkrumah acquired purposely and mainly for agricultural development, today, a midget-minded president has gone to turn the place and said they are going to put up affordable houses. Right? They are going to put affordable houses at a site that Kwame Nkrumah acquired for agri purposes. Diary. Everything is there. Now, the people are even looking for a place to expand. You are not able to add them land. And the land available, you are going to build affordable housing. And that affordable housing you are going to build, right? The people who are coming in are bringing 40% of the resources. You are giving them free land and free everything. After that, you pay 60%, right? Then when they finish, they take 60% of the property and they give you 40%. You sit here and you have our government telling us that they know one person will go and buy more than one houses. As if we are tomfooleries. As if we are fools. How many of such have we not seen? That lawyer will say that only one person will buy the housing, right? Then lawyer sign an agreement with you. I'll give you money. You go and buy. When you finish, you come back to lawyer's office and come and sell the property to him. So by the time we finish, those in government who are buying hotels today, state hotels, will be the ones who would have acquired all those properties. Yet you would have destroyed our agriculture, knowing very well that food is a national security issue. So Kwame Nkrumah did not just put up the 7-year development plan. But when you're talking, take each of the problems that Kwame Nkrumah mentioned and look at the practical works he did. Kwame Nkrumah provided for us the fishing corporation. Because our fishers went to shore, they came back with their fish, and their fish were left to rot. Because fish, if you keep it for a certain period, and you are not able to preserve it by fire, it will go rotten. So we set up the cold stores. Kwame Nkrumah ensured that we had fishing corporation. We had one in Wa. Look at how far it is. Everywhere. So fishing corporations had fleet of vehicles. They carried the fish and they are transporting. People were employed. Was that not reducing employment? People were employed to sit at the cold shops to sell the fish. And anytime fish came, people had to run to come and buy the fish. Employment was generated. Today, we have sold out the fishing corporation. No cold stores. The employment has been taken off. Kwame Nkrumah provided practical solutions to any of the problems that we identified. He talked about job opportunities.
Yes.
And talked that, look, we needed to create full employment for our people. Are you not aware? And permit me to use this. Where our Terminal 2 used to be, which was our international airport, the car park, take note, the car park, some people had created a drinking spot, a food joint there. There used to be lots of kebab. People went and checked in, came back to sit down there. When it is about 40 minutes or 30 minutes, then they walk back. Today, we are too sensible. We have come to build a Terminal 3. And in building that Terminal 3, we have taken jobs away from locals who could just go and sell chinchinga, sell meat pie, sell basic things that they could earn jobs. They have lost their jobs. How is that augmenting the job system in the economy? So everything must be westernized. So your Terminal 3, tell me, when you go and check in Terminal 3, where are you going to sit with your friends and people who have come to see you off? So the economy has been taken away and hijacked and placed at the doorsteps of people who have PhDs and what have you. Master, sometimes you sit down and realize that probably our education has not even helped us. Because when Kwame Nkrumah started this experiment, majority of the people were not that educated. But they had home sense. Their level of education compared with the level of the education that Kwame Nkrumah's policy provided us. And what we are using the education for, we are using the education to become thieves. That is where probably the failure has come. That Kwame Nkrumah, in providing us education, provided an education that will lead to thievery. That is how come you can get police persons who are doctors. The IGP is a doctor, PhD holder.
Yes.
The regional commander is a PhD holder. You tell us that you have applied for application to file an to place injunction. Going for an application is not an injunction. And even if an injunction is granted, and the people upon which the injunction is granted decided not to respect the courts, you don't go brutalizing them. Your duty is go back to court and file for contempt.
Okay.
Useless PhDs in Kwane. What is this?
Let me read some messages as we are actually about to lace up. This one says that without Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, there's no Ghana. Indeed, he is the pivotal link to the total liberation and freedom. Nobody and no president can change that fact. We don't know any other history than the one that led us into our independence. I have one. There's a gentleman called Bongo. Is it Camillus Bongo? He says, I should tell you that he hardly hears from you. Okay. Another message here. And
he hardly hears from me.
From you, yes. Bernard Mona, yes.
Me too, I don't hear from you.
This one says, Mr. Mona, God bless you for your submission this morning. The airport, telecom, GNTC, and others. This is coming from Anani, who is listening to us in Awushi. I have one who says that you are tired of the two-party cycle. Please ask the prof and Bernard, I'm sorry, just referring to your lawyer. How can we unite the Nkrumah's party to unite the likes of Indun, Bernard, Ayariga, Ivory Street, Joy, Pratt to come together to fight? Fight actually in quoting here, and you can send us a message as we get ready to wrap. There's one point I'm very much interested in, and both of you actually read that wide. This morning I spoke to a lecturer who's a doctor at the African State University of Ghana. Subsequently, I've had other conversations with other professors too, and this time around not in our universities, but universities in the States. And you realize that the kind of literature we have about Nkrumah here in Ghana, compared to the books that other universities outside the African continent actually have of him, we don't actually have it here. And it's a bit controlled if I put it as such. What is important is what the young ones are also going to know about him, and the books for them to also read again to know about him. Has there been enough done by Ghana, I would say, by the media in this country, by the universities in this country, by our scholars in this country, to ensure that the ideals of Nkrumah the books that he's written, every part of his book, the knowledge of Nkrumah is something that we still have and the younger ones can read on. Because if you go to our universities and we still have Ghanaian students referring to what an American president said, quoting or having quotes of European presidents, and you ask yourself, Nkrumah even said way stronger things than what they even did. Has something been set for the next generation to hold on to? That man, Kwame Nkrumah.
I would think we haven't done much, first of all, to honor him. We haven't done much, first of all, to understand him. And that's the reason why we are suffering. Some people think Nkrumah died in 1966. Luckily for us, he didn't die in 66. So he lived long enough to put so many things down, which could be studied by us. Yes, when you go to the University of Ghana bookshop, and then all the university libraries and secondary school libraries at the moment, you will not find Nkrumah's books there. But luckily for me, I've gone to some other African countries where I have seen his books in different languages
that are not in Ghana,
that are not here. Especially if you want, somebody came, a researcher wanted neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, and never found it anywhere in Ghana. And he had it outside. So that is the problem. So more or less, that is what makes him a prophet. A prophet is not honored in his own home.
But how come? I mean, how come?
No, we have to consciously do that. The year 2003, 2004, you know, at a certain symposium, our own president, Kufuor, said he found Mandela as the greatest African leader. You understand? I said, wow. When he himself knows that when people were fighting for him, he was in prison. Do you understand? When he was alive, the battle was not as big and tough and rough as when he was in prison. And then when everything was cooked and set, the table had been set for him, he came. And when he came, I mean, there was nothing new he did. As this man said, Robert Mugabe, that I did for Zimbabwe what Mandela could not do for South Africa. I've given you your land, I've given you your freedom, and I've given you control over your economy. This three Mandela could not do for the people of South Africa. And when it comes to this three, Nkrumah did for the entire continent of Africa. And I was so surprised that our president, who had to keep quiet if he didn't like Nkrumah, who should open his mouth to say, I like somebody. And I'm saying this because I went to South Africa, and what I learned from them in their culture, they don't praise anybody apart from people among them. They don't condemn their leaders publicly. They don't. Mandela had so many issues there, but their culture says, no, he's your leader, you should respect him. In the case of Ghana, we had a right leader who deserves praise, appellation, and the world is praising him, giving him appellation. And we are not. So it shows that jealousy in us, that wickedness in us, destroying whatever the man did and continually poisoning the minds of the children. Because when we were young, we were reading the F.K. Bua history books. So class 4, P4 up to Form 4. So when you come out of school, you are a historian. In the case of today, we've taken history out of the syllabus. And in place of Kwame Nkrumah, they put the founding fathers. And nobody knows the founding fathers. Please, it's not late. I believe that there must be a parliamentary select committee of parliament which would work hand in hand with another committee made up of the university lecturers and then set up new syllabus for us so that we begin to learn about our past. The fact that we have always been one people. And then 2, the fact that somebody laid a solid foundation for us. And the fact that without that foundation, you can't go anywhere. When I was coming, a lady told me, I mean, from one of the stations, that at the time he was at the university writing her thesis, she was specifically warned that at the Peace Science Department, if you like talking about Kwame Nkrumah, they will fail you, so be careful. And this is his own country. When you go to universities in Tanzania and Southern Africa, people do PhD in Nkrumah.
Even in US.
You go to Pennsylvania University, and you see that big Kwame Nkrumah edifice. And they are proud that they produce him for us. So what's our problem? You go to Russia, they study Kwame Nkrumah, and then come to talk about the European EEC. You see, they had the European Economic Community, at the time when you had the Organization of African Unity. So it means we were ahead of them.
Yeah.
Then they built it, and then it became the European Community, you see. Now they have sent it to another level, EU. European Union. And you having Organization of African Unity, look at how powerful the name is. Now you come down, you scale it down to the name AU, African Union. So that unity, now you understand.
Yeah.
It's whittled away. Please, we need to come, sit down, and go back to where we started. It is not late for us to do that. Yeah, I was doing a program on high life in Ghana, you know, and I made the host, and in fact, all the viewers to know that time was when you sang high life, people would gather around elders and ask them, what is the meaning of this Ampedu song or Amachi Dede song or what do you call it, Pat Thomas or whatever. And we allowed that to die away. And now we are talking about songs that have no philosophical meaning, and the children are using them. So we are losing a lot. We are losing it from all the fronts. We are losing.
Has the media helped in any way?
The media, I would say, is doing a lot. I would never condemn the media because...
Not for high life, too. I'm talking about the whole idea of Nkrumah.
Yes, because as we sit here today, in other countries, the birthday of the president would be a day for national celebration. And maybe the day before, the eve, would have been a day when school children would be taught nothing more than and nothing above what the man did. So that forever and ever it will be inculcated in them. In the case of Ghana, the state has washed its hands off it completely. But the media has sustained it. So we have to praise the media. Maybe somebody sitting somewhere doesn't like what the three of us are saying today. But because you are part of the media, ready to sacrifice and die, you know, people in the media are targeted and killed more than lawyers and doctors and politicians. So we have to praise you.
Okay. Bernard, sustaining the whole Nkrumah idea, I mean, from every cycle, literature. I was even talking about with my colleagues about even our film industry. I stand for any correction, whether there's any movie, any film about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Incidentally, he's the only world leader without a full documentary. So you have to think about that. The only world leader without it.
Unfortunately, we've not, so as a country, we've not even produced.
No, everybody hates him from all angles. They tear him because every system, like the European system, is built on his ideas. And they don't want to acknowledge it. Like the white people who came here and saw the women surrounding Nana Kwame and South Elmina wearing earrings. And they went home and started copying it. And Queen Elizabeth was always wearing earrings. And they never acknowledged that they got it from the Gold Coast. Never.
I can talk about 2 or 3 movies on Mandela already. And these are Hollywood-produced movies. But when it comes to the man himself, well, Bernard, the future and for younger generations.
How do you expect that the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and the entire EU will celebrate a man who took away their glory and took food out of their mouth? Are they not the people who have internationalized Mandela? For what reason? Because Mandela gave them what they wanted. Nkrumah didn't give them. In fact, Nkrumah took away what they wanted. So we have a UN Day dedicated to Mandela. Even when Mandela himself said that in voting for the African of the Millennium, he, Mandela, voted for Kwame.
And add that when Mills proposed Kwame Nkrumah Day in Ghana, in less than 3 days, the United States brought about the World Mandela Day. So it means even when the man is in his grave, the whole world is afraid of him.
And when Mills proposed the Kwame Nkrumah Founders Day celebration, you know that the AU, without difficulty in SETI, ascended and agreed that they will put it on the African Union as their calendar. We celebrated. Fortunately, we have the personal photographer. He's alive, Chris Essie. He has lots of memories about what happened. His brains are very sharp even in 92. And you should take advantage. Meet with him so that we can put together. Now let it be established that When I was the secretary to the Kwame Nkrumah Centenary Planning Committee, and then Akilapa was the chairman.
Yeah.
To get Kwame Nkrumah's books that were burnt by the University of Ghana under Professor Finn. Kwame Nkrumah's books were burnt in the University of Ghana. We wanted to get Kwame Nkrumah's books back into Ghana. We managed to get June Mill. And when we got June Mill, he said, no
June
Ghana.
Mill from where?
Yeah, June Mill from the
literary executives of Nkrumah.
Okay. Then she said, oh, she couldn't maintain the thing, so she sold the books and the rights to some Ugandans called the Kakembos. Okay. And so we had to go through the Kakembos to produce the tongues of books that we produce to come and stock. And so Nkrumah had 17 titles. I can give you each one of them. But for fear that you will not return them, I will not. So Nkrumah alone wrote 17 titles. That each one of them is a class. When you read any of Nkrumah's books, you ask yourself, where did he get the kind of language he got from? We in Ghana cannot take ownership of the books of Kwame Nkrumah to learn. Go to Makerere University. They study Nkrumahism and Pan-Africanism as a master's program. As a master's program, Nkrumah is studied as a master's program. Look, Nkrumah is not just a human being. He is an institution. The question is, where do we go from here? The sons and daughters of Kwame Nkrumah must rise. The infiltration in our front has been too mammoth. The tree that was cut on the top does not mean that we cannot graft it. Dr. Don Arthur, who is the architect who brought about the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park and the Mausoleum.
Yeah.
Sit down with him and he'll tell you that, look at the thing well. You see that the roots are protruding, you can see. Then you see the trunk of the mausoleum, but it's cut on the top. What is not on the top is the one that will lead to the branches and lead to the fruits. We can graft it. We can make sure we bring it back. My final submission is this. Kwame Nkrumah died because of unity. He labored because of unity. Unity away from federalism. That's why we had a unitary state. Unity of continent was his raison. It's everything about him. Unity of the marginalized world. You know that Kwame Nkrumah is one of the 5 founders of the non-aligned movement. In fact, he initiated it.
He initiated it because of his skin. He had to join the others.
He initiated it and brought people to join the non-aligned movement. Greatness is from Africa. Greatness is from Ghana. Ghana can be great than it is. Unfortunately, when institutions of state, and I want to use this to conclude, persons who are benefiting because we did not conform. Ghana Police Service was born out of non-conformity. Citizens want to protest against injustice at the Julobi House. Then you, the Ghana Police Service, say yesterday that you have gone to get to file an application. Filing an application is not the same thing as granting of an injunction. In fact, if there is anything, lawyer will tell us. The Electoral Commission has succinctly told us that people can go and get an injunction application, but it's not the same thing as an injunction. And therefore, we will do what we have to do. The Electoral Commission is proceeding with its activities. Why didn't the Ghana Police Service go to stop the Electoral Commission from going ahead with the registration because there is an injunction on it? So you have PhD holders from the IGP to the Greater Accra Regional Command, and they don't know nothing. So today, that injunction application, you say you have. The people say, we don't respect your injunction application. Is that what common sense should tell you? That go and brutalize them? Common sense should tell you that if they have refused to listen to you, go and file for contempt. Allow them. You say you cannot go and protect their event. Not so. If you cannot protect it, why do you have men to go and disrupt it? Why do you have? Is that the kind of Ghana Kwame Nkrumah fought for? So that our education has now been used not only to steal but to torment us. And you know the final point.
In wrapping up, Bernard, I have one more slide to go.
They say
yes.
There are people that have come later. They come and tell you, we have taken your leader somewhere where you are going to converge. Police engage in deceit and lies. So they take the people, take them to Cantonment's police station, take them to other police stations. I am very disgusted that PhD holders will engage in things that P1 people will not even engage in.
All right, before I move to my last slide, which is going to be on the African continent itself and what the continent can also learn from Nkrumah moving forward, you can call us, not the number on your screen. The one on your screen is strictly for WhatsApp messages. Yes, the one you're seeing now on your screen, which is the 0204452707, is strictly for WhatsApp messages. But you can call us on 026 4,996 026 4,996
That's not how to mention the telephone number. What is 4,000?
4,000. So 026, just to make it easy for our viewers. 026
4,000 is
4000.
When you say 4,000, it connotes money.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about phone number. Just to make it easy for our viewers. 026. So the 4,000 is 4000,996. So 026 4,996 026 4,996. Just give us a call whilst we get ready to wrap up. But yeah, the continent itself. Unfortunately, West Africa has seen some bit of coups here and there. There have been other ones too that's outside the sub-region itself. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to bring all of us together. Kwame Nkrumah's plan was to create a united Africa. Is Africa ready for that? Will Africa be ready for that?
The answer is yes and no at the same time.
Okay, sorry. I think we have a friend on the line. Let's talk to the person. Hello, good morning. Actually, it's midday, so good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Tell us your name, where you're reaching us from, and let's hear your submission.
Okay, this is Dr. Gapo, the Dean of Lawe University College.
Hi.
This morning, my spirit is so excited, and I don't know, I'm lost for words. I must commend the panel, and I'm sure this production should be repeated as many times as possible. It's just unfortunate my children are not at home today to listen to this instructive discussion. This is a very historic moment. I have not on 21st of September witnessed a discussion of this nature before. And I plead with you, if there can be a repeat of this broadcast later in the evening or during the weekend, I will compel my entire family and friends to listen to this instructive discussion. I believe, like, Bernard said, the grafting process has begun with this discussion. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Doc. Thank you very much. I think that's Professor Alabi's wife's university. Yes, sorry. Thank you very much.
Before,
yes,
yeah.
Thank you very much for reaching us, and thanks for those kind words. Again, the number is 026 4,996 026 4,996. Okay, I've just been told that there'll be a playback later this evening. I'll get the time for you. There'll be a playback later this evening. I'll get the time for you. Yes, Africa itself, what is happening in West Africa and the continent itself, whether we can actually come together.
Yeah, luckily for us, you see that Guinea, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Julius Malema. Anytime I see Julius Malema, I remember
Bernard Bola.
Yeah. Now,
I'm sorry I have to cut you in there. Since you are now on the phone lines, I'm sure a lot of calls will be coming in. So whilst
don't worry,
I'll be cutting in. Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, your name and where you're reaching us from, please.
Yeah, my name is Anand Prince.
Good.
I'm calling from Muniba.
All right, Anna, let's hear you.
Yeah. In fact, today I am very, 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 very sad and at the same time happy, because this discussion, in fact, I even don't know what to say. I am thanking the panel. I'm thanking the panel for today, especially the doctor who has given us much insight about Osadefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and what he really stood for. In fact, I even wanted to ask who is Kwame Nkrumah himself, who is Osadefo, and what he stood for as a country. In fact, we've lost a gem. And in fact, our generation must begin to know who this man is, and the history must continue for them to know who Osadefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Prince. Yes.
So you see that this generation, this generation coming up of African leaders, this new one, they are mentioning Kwame Nkrumah's name. So it means that many more will come up that would bring the continent together. At least if it is not in the frame Nkrumah imagined, that full continental unity, it may be like that of the EU, and it would not be bad at all, where we have distinct countries, but the economies and the armies together. So I think that is not a bad idea, what is happening here. And then in the case of West Africa, you will see that they are standing up against the former colonial masters. That's the France. They are standing up against it. And I believe it is in the right direction. It is in the right direction that, as Nkrumah said during the 1958 All African People's Conference, he said, hands off Africa, Africa for Africans. So we are not failing, provided we are moving towards where Nkrumah wanted to push the continent to.
All right, I have another friend on the line. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
My name is George. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Daniel Kafu Ishabashi.
Good. Daniel from where?
Calling from Pantine.
Good.
Adenta West.
Dan, let's hear you.
Yeah, please. Yeah, you did mention of people destroying Kwame Nkrumah books. I don't know those who destroy those books you are talking about. Please, can you enlighten on that?
Okay. All right. Okay, Dan. Bernard, if you can just go.
Professor Finn of the University of Ghana. The University of Ghana BAM's library, where the books were kept. They destroyed them. And they even prohibited...
Why were they destroyed?
They were destroyed because they didn't want anything about Kwame Nkrumah to be available for those of us to be born to come and read and know Kwame Nkrumah.
It was after his overthrow.
Yes, just immediately after his overthrow.
Yeah.
And then add that not just the university, there was a law, a decree to the effect that anybody seen with any effigy of Nkrumah, you become a criminal.
When you say effigy, so people don't understand.
Yeah, the photo,
just a photo like this one.
Memorabilia, anything associated with Nkrumah became a crime. So people were just bringing things and burning them everywhere. Yes.
So we destroyed a chunk of our history. And professors who are supposed to ensure that knowledge was built, they rather went and brought the books and destroyed. The University of Ghana owes the people of Ghana an apology.
But one will also argue that was within a period.
They still owe an apology.
And it was within a period where
people are accepting their crimes in the Nazi war issues.
Yeah.
In the Holocaust, people are accepting their faults. Those who are accepting it today were not there.
In fact, Africa is talking about reparation.
Yes. So it is important for the University of Ghana to come out publicly to lament and to lambast those who constituted the destroying of the knowledge,
including the PhD, the honorary PhD given to General Afifa by the University of Ghana
for overthrowing Kwame Nkrumah.
Being able to overthrow Kwame Nkrumah, you honor him with the PhD.
He was given a PhD.
Yes, by the University of Ghana.
The same university that bans Nkrumah's books.
Let me read some messages, then I'll come to Bernard on the Africa continent conversation. This one says that congratulations to the panel. So please, my name is Elvis. I would like to ask Prof where I can get the 17 titles of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah here in Accra. Bernard.
Oh, you can get it at the Zenith University College. and,
all
and
17
all the
books,
kingdom books.
the 17 titles.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah, they eventually came and took all of them from the Centenary Planning Committee because we don't have a bookshop.
Okay.
And so everything was given to them.
So they printed copies.
Yeah, they printed copies. And you need to print them, you need a Kakembo's right to be able to print them. Ghana doesn't have the right to print the books.
Yeah. And let Ghanaians know that with that, he set a record. You know, at the time he wrote 15 books as a certain president, he made a record. No certain president had ever been able to do that. Meanwhile, he was working and traveling all the time.
And putting the grand agenda. Yeah. The 7-year development plan, everything.
And he was part of the economic team.
He will work and come back and go and sit down with the committee to find out, let me read what you have done. And he correct it.
After his overthrow, a committee was set up to discover whether he was a plagiarist, that is copying from other people's books. And it was discovered everything was original.
Solid from his head. All right, I have a friend on the line. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Hello. All right. A message here. Nkrumah never dies. His dreams and visions are still resonating. I believe sons and daughters, Africa youth will rise again. And Stephen from Dansuma says, I'm happy about your program. Your guests are very knowledgeable. Stephen, thank you very much. And thanks a lot for the kind messages and words that we're actually getting, both via text and audio too. But the African continent, whether we can actually come together. All right, we have a friend on the line. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. All right, too bad. Yes, Bernard.
Well, I think that for what is happening, particularly within West Africa, in spite of the fact that it's military in nature, it is liberating in nature. France has been a dominant butcher of the African people. Right. They have destroyed the African economies.
But hold on for me on that bit. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. All right, so yes, Bernard.
France has destroyed most African nations. It was only Guinea and the Sékou Touré who voted against Charles de Gaulle's economic pact or pact that they wrote. They rejected it 94%. All other countries were compelled. Guinea had to suffer for daring to oppose the Charles de Gaulle pact. Guinea was supported then by Kwame Nkrumah, and probably that is the reason for which, when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, Sékou Touré brought him and said, your agenda is big. You have done so much for the people of Guinea. Come and be a co-president. And the Ghana-Guinea-Mali Union actually gave birth to the organization of the African Unity. So what Kwame Nkrumah was trying to do is that if not all of us want to start the unity of Africa, let a few of us start. As and when other countries agree, they will come and join. Is that not the principle that the European Union adopted?
All right, better hold on for me. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, what's your name and where you're reaching us from?
I'm Yakub, calling from Tamale.
Good, Yao. Yes, Yao.
Good afternoon. What? I'm grateful.
Yeah, you know what? Just reduce the volume on your television set and just go ahead. Just speak to us, okay? Don't listen to yourself on TV. Just go on.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Hello, Yao. All right.
I'm happy watching your program. Really, really, really. Lawyer and Mr. Bernard are doing a great job enlightening us.
All right. Thank you very much, Yao.
The problem is...
What's the problem, Yao? Okay, we've lost the audio. Bernard, please, just continue.
And so, for the fact that Kwame Nkrumah thought that, look, if all of us cannot start the unity, let's start with Ghana, Guinea, and Mali. When the benefits start to come around, the rest of the continent will follow. Right? The European Union did not start as European Union. Under the Maastricht Agreement, they became formed the European Union. And quickly, all the countries from Germany to Italy, to France. They jettisoned their individual countries' currencies that were stronger than any African or all African countries combined. And they accepted the euro. Today, look at the mediocrity that we are engaging. West Africa wants to have its own currency.
Yeah.
West Africa wants to have its own currency. Instead of us to be working towards a continental currency, we are here engaging in pittance, micro things.
Okay.
West Africa wants a currency. What about the African currency? Those countries that want to get an African currency, let's start with it. As we speak, it is not the entire Europe that is using the euro.
The euro, yeah. Just hold on.
Those that are qualified are there. So the fact that EU can go for euro, African Union can go for an AFRI or an ANAFRO. And then we can start from there. If Ghana wants, you subscribe to it.
Okay. I think we have a friend on the line. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon. I can hear you. What's your name?
I'm Samuel calling from Amasama.
Good. Sam, let's hear you.
I'm very grateful to your panelists. They've done... Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, Sam.
Your panelists, they've done a very good job today. I was very enlightened. I'm grateful to them.
Okay.
But the problem is, as Professor said, can't we just go back and do what Nkrumah was doing before he was overthrown?
Can we just do what?
I'm a small boy sitting in one corner bar.
Okay.
What happened? I think we just go back, or maybe a political party just say, the 7-year plan is my manifesto. I'll come and do what Nkrumah was doing. And I think that person will follow that person. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Sam, thank you very much. Yes, Sam is going to be our last caller. You're saying that you can't go back and do what Nkrumah was actually doing, and touching on the even 7-year development plan. The interesting thing about the 7-year development plan is that, yes, there was a national committee put in place, of which Nkrumah chaired. Even when it was done, Kwame Nkrumah brought economists from around the world to Ghana to come and discuss that plan.
Actionable.
Yes.
Professor Lewis,
yes,
the foremost economist in the world.
In the world. He brought top economists around the world to Ghana to come and actually discuss the plan that he has put in place for this beautiful country of ours.
And a young Ghanaian economist was also part. Then, J.H. Mensah.
Yes.
He was executive secretary.
Yeah. Right. So we had economists from even the United Kingdom, from Poland, from Hungary, from the Netherlands, from Sierra Leone, from New York, from even Jamaica, Nigeria, India, Addis Ababa, Libya, and Latin America's area, then even from Liberia too. And they came down here, and Nkrumah brought them here to discuss this whole plan. And if you get a copy of the plan, you read them, you get to understand.
It's on the net. So
it's on the net. Just Google Kwame Nkrumah 7 years development plan, and you read them and how relevant it is today for all of us and for our development. I'm going to pick a final stretch from all of you that we can wrap up. Your final words for all of you that we can wrap up. Bernard.
Well, so what is happening within the French West Africa is testimony that we cannot continue to work for the furtherance of the colonial administration in France. And so all the military takeovers, and I'm sure that many more will come. The other day I said that Togo should be next, and I think that Cameroon will fall. I am not going to be surprised if Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire comes under the same spell, because majority of our French brothers are simply tired of France and their control of the African resources. And you can see that in Mali in particular. They have immediately said that French is no longer their national language. They have identified 13 languages of their own that they will be using for their national thing. And fortunately for people around that area, Anta Diop actually Sheikh Anta Diop denominated even mathematics into their local languages and whatever that they can easily use. If you listen to the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, for instance, he's saying that Burkina Faso and Mali are but one country. So they should begin to see how they can integrate and work together. Yeah. And of course, if you listen to Ibrahim Traoré says that, look, for many years, France says that they are not going to send any aid to them. You have given us aid for the past 60 years. We have not overcome our poverty. So if you don't give us even aid, we are still the same poor people. We are willing to take our own destiny into our own hands. And I think that that is precisely what Achampon did when he delivered the Yen to a speech. In fact, it was Dr. Asibi Abudu, who is around, A.O. Abudu, who typed the speech. And so anytime you meet with his A.O. Abudu, he can tell you precisely what is in the... And when they delivered the speech, the IMF and World Bank left this country. So between 1972 and 1975, Ghana became food self-sufficient. Ghana became virtually dependent on it. So we were exporting even sugar. We exported in excess of 30,000 tons of sugar. What it means is that we are capable of doing things our own way. But anytime we want to do this, then they'll tell you we will not give you aid. Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré said, keep your aid. After all, your aid has not made us richer. It has rather made us poorer. We will be able to rise ourselves. And so I think that West Africa should rather give their backing to what is happening, and rather than orchestrate them.
That will be difficult for that.
Listen,
that's really going to
President Akufo-Addo joined ECOWAS
yes.
in saying that he has placed a ban on Niger.
Yes.
A bulk of 80% of the onion you consume come from Niger. And so it's like the bat. You know, the bat's turn is saying that it wants to shit onto God. Anytime you shit, it falls back on you. You say that you want to punish the people of Niger. You are punishing yourself because onion prices have gone up. Right? So it's affecting your economy in even bigger way probably than it will affect the people of Niger. So what are you talking about? So they come and influence us to place, look, our brothers are simply saying that the people that we elected to lead us are not leading us rightly. We have complained, we have spoken, and it's not working. We want to change. Go and dialogue with them. You are there imposing useless economic sanctions on these countries.
Thank you very much, Bernard Mona. Lawyer, your final words so we can wrap up.
Oh, my final words are that the word, I want to call it word, the word Nkrumah would never go away.
Nkrumah never dies.
It will never go away. So it's appropriate and relevant for our government to accept it and make it part of our daily lives. Then I believe that Ghana would rise again. We should begin to respect Nkrumah, and not only Nkrumah, all our past leaders, and give them the reverence that they deserve. But if the government will not do that, I think individuals, like in Nkrumah's books, somebody, a businessman may take it upon himself just to publish the books and then stock the universities and other libraries up for the young people to read. I also believe that our syllabus for the primary schools must change and then incorporate those of our own great leaders as well as our very beautiful historic past. That's the little I can say.
Okay. Just to ask a question.
Yes.
Today has been caricatured as Kwame Nkrumah's day.
Caricatured?
Yes, because it's Founders Day.
Yeah. Today?
Yes, today
is Kwame Nkrumah's Memorial Day.
I'm saying that today has been caricatured as Kwame Nkrumah's Memorial Day. It's a Founders Day. Tell me whether President Akufo-Addo has tweeted about the man.
I have not seen it.
About the man who took the world by storm by dressing purely African at the UN. Tell me that the state officially, that the government of Ghana has issued any statement celebrating Kwame Nkrumah. That is to tell you how low we have sunk.
Okay.
But Bernard Mona should know that it's not everybody who wants to copy a great man and be like him.
Okay.
You want to be like him. It's not everybody who wants
like
that.
to do that.
Yes.
Okay. I'll conclude on the third paragraph of the 7 years development plan. And this was the foreword written by the President of the Republic of Ghana, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The third paragraph reads, our aim is to establish in Ghana a strong and progressive society in which no one will have any anxiety about the basic means of life, about work, food, and shelter, where poverty and illiteracy no longer exist and diseases is actually brought under control, and where educational facilities provide all the children of Ghana with the best possible opportunities for the development of their potentials. On this note, thanks a lot for joining us, and thanks to those who were able to catch us from Cape Town, from the US, and of course from France too. My name is George Sapo. I'll see you again when I see you again. Let's enjoy this day. Let's always remember, Nkrumah never dies. Bye-bye.
Freedom! Freedom! Freedom!
Kwame Nkrumah was a visionary, a revolutionary, and a pathbreaker.
He dared to challenge colonial subjects and the colonial powers so that ordinary African people could organize for their independence.
At long last, the battle has ended.
He had a vision, he had a dream about Ghana.